Okay. You guys, through chat, can, I guess, cut me off anytime and ask me questions by chat. This is a new system to me, and I was a little worried about my connection, but it sounds like everything's fine. Katie, if you can't hear me, or Brian, you can't hear me, please let me know. I wanted just to start off with telling you that I'm a research botanist at the Botanical Research Institute of Texas, based in Fort Worth. I have a website up here. I don't have a PowerPoint to show everything that we're doing. We're a small institution with a brand new big building. We have a small scientific staff. Most of the research scientists or research botanists live in the field. I live in Peru, and part of my job here is directing what we call the Andes Amazon Biodiversity Program, which is a research program started at BRIT in 2003. But it's not only at BRIT, because what we have going on here through the Andes Amazon Biodiversity Program are inventories, or let's say investigations, of the flora and the fauna, the ecosystems of the Andes Amazon region. And while we've been focused mostly in southeastern Peru, from the high Andes down into the lowland Amazon, we also have collaborators from numerous Peruvian institutions, Brazilian institutions, and as I like to say, we try to spend most of our time with our boots on the ground. So in Peru, I don't have an office. I'm talking today from my tiny little shack outside of Lima. Can you hear me? Okay, great. I'm just going to keep going. Anybody let me know. Great. So, I was talking about Andes Amazon. This is a biodiversity program, research program, that involves active research in the field, and as Brian was saying, a great deal of collecting specimens. So, I heard that last week you learned about collecting mushroom specimens. I'm not going to be going over the collection of actual specimens. What I'm going to talk about is a technology that we've developed at BRIT to really get our data from the field to the internet and onto publication. As part of the Andes Amazon Biodiversity Program, we designed a system that we call Atrium. An Atrium is a center of clarity, a center of knowledge, a center of sharing, which is where the name comes from. And what you're looking at here is atriumbiodiversity.org, which in the beginning for us was, we kind of looked at it as a website that would be a portal that could connect people, projects, and institutions around the data sets, around the data that are used to, let's say, describe ecosystems and actually justify conservation. I'm going to conclude my talk with a real-world example that takes us from the field to a final publication using this complete system. Before I get to the main, what we call the Andes Amazon Biodiversity Portal, I just want to show you that Atrium is an open source software, can be installed almost anywhere and set up rather quickly. So, for instance, this is this is an Atrium site for the BRIT herbarium. I'm not going to waste time right now going into this, because you're going to see all the tools in the major Andes Amazon Biodiversity Portal. Here we have one site for a project at BRIT. It's in collaboration with the University of Minnesota and Conservation International, which is the digital flora of New Guinea. A really highly diverse flora that requires fast data collection and fast identification through museum work. So just another example which shows you that Atrium is being used. Now, we've also recently set up a prototype site for the Guelph herbarium, which is the herbarium of Ontario, Canada. And even though it's a prototype, it's set up, and now we're in the process of uploading data and uploading about 100,000 specimen scans, which takes time and a little bit of money and plenty of energy. Before I get to the Andes Amazon Biodiversity Portal, I want to show you how we can take different applications from our what we call our Atrium toolset and use it for, like single applications. For instance, this is a Taper Specialist Group virtual library. I'll show you the library that we use in Atrium in a moment. So, for instance, I can look up, Peru, and this is done by the Taper Specialist Group, programmed by one of our main programmer, research scientist named Matthew Sedler based at San Diego. If I would have known that he could have logged in tonight, maybe we'd both be given the demo, but we can maybe try that another day. So you can see it gives people a chance to bring together all the publications that are known about the taper, which we can maybe discuss later. And then another application is one of our dreams was to take Atrium to animals. So here's an example or prototype of a site we did for the IUCN, or categorization of the wildlife or the wild fauna of Peru. Now, these are just some examples. What I'm going to do now, I assume everybody can hear me, except for Justine. I'm going to take you now on a quick tour through the Andes Amazon Atrium. Okay? And for instance, it's going to be kind of random. I'm going to just take it as I might use Atrium on any given day. So we manage a lot of permissions and user permissions, I should say. We manage that through the Atrium login system, or the permission system. Any administrator within Atrium can go in and make new permissions. For instance, we can set up a password protection on a given data set, such as orchids. You know, orchids are oftentimes thought to be very sensitive. The data are sensitive. We don't want people going out and collecting endangered orchids, so we oftentimes hide those data. The truth is, in our system, we don't hide anything unless collaborators ask us to hide them, at least for a given period of time. So I'm logging in, and I thought what I'd do is real quick, like before I get to the botanical data, I wanted to show you, well, for instance, how we use tools. You know, so we have this Google Translator plugged in, which has been pretty nice because it's brought us more and more people looking at the site from other countries, right? It's wonderful to view Atrium in Chinese, for instance, and it works really well for Spanish and Portuguese, which is probably the most important for this. We have seen problems, for instance, when we worked at biological stations or conservation areas, where numerous scientists and their students, you know, were generating, let's say, GIS data. We used to send a hard drive that had a name, and we'd put all the GIS files on this hard drive and send the hard drive around so people could download the data. And then one day we realized, well, we can just do this all online. So what you can do is you could upload, you can also download. You go in. I'm doing a search for raster data, which are satellite images and such. And what you get is you get a summary of all the data that are available. So some of these are modified Landsat images or vegetation classifications. For instance, here you can see the metadata for a given data set. You can download it, and it's ready for use in ArcGIS. You can also preview it before you download it. This is an NDVI classification of the forest that we work in, and I don't really have time to get deeper into that. But as you see here, the zip file can be downloaded and actually dumped directly into any of the programs that are used to do GIS or satellite image classification. Another thing was that every site we worked at, we were dealing with weather data, you know, data about temperature, about precipitation, what we might call environmental data, that are important for all kinds of analyses that we do with biodiversity data. So comparing, you know, diversity versus rainfall and such. What we've done is we've pulled together a great set of weather stations data from the Andes Amazon region of southeastern Peru. So I'm opening up a graph. You can go in and do all of, you know, you can change the axes on the graph depending on what you want to see. What you can see here is if you look at the average temperature, you know, there are peaks and lows in the temperature. You can see areas where, for instance, here you might have seen like what we call friaje cold fronts, and you could also see high precipitation in the rainy months, etc. And when you start adding this to biodiversity data, diversity composition data, abundance data for species, such as tree species, it really, you know, starts to make more sense. You can also download the data, either the graph data or the raw data. And this is probably one of the most common uses of this Atrium instance, is people going in and downloading weather data from sites where they've done research. So the next thing we have is, because we work in Madre de Dios, Peru, it's been one of our heavy research sites for the last 10 years. We've set up a system where we can put bibliographic data in, just mainly to let people share. We were planning to put PDFs online, but copyright issues hit us, and we just sort of stopped. But you can look up, for instance, taper, taper by keywords, and find different articles that are, focused on Madre de Dios. Now, I assume everybody's following me. It's kind of strange to be sitting here talking to a screen, but I know that I'm talking to you all. What I'm going to do now is go into the Andes Amazon Atrium, and it's really, as I told Brian, and Brian has seen this live, it could take an afternoon to go through everything that we're doing here. So what I wanted to do was just talk about a digital herbarium. Why a digital herbarium? Well, I work in Peru. To do botanical research, ecological research in Peru, I have to apply for permits that sometimes take 6 weeks or 6 months to be issued. Then I have to get myself to the field site. I collect all my specimens, sometimes thousands of specimens, in duplicate format, because if you collect one tree, you're going to make 10 different specimens of it, so that you can deposit specimens in Peru, send specimens back to the United States, and then also send specimens to the taxonomic experts, which are usually focused on any given family of plants. I know some of you are not biologists or botanists, so just bear with me. If you have questions, we can get into it. But what I want to try to do here is sort of a workflow. Like, how do I sit here and use a system? I go to the field and make my collections, and we take thousands of images. As you can see here, I think we have right now, I think we're approaching 50,000 images. There are three kinds of images. You have herbarium specimen images, or dry specimen images, which you can see down here on the lower right, and then we have a lot of fresh images. So many of the fresh images we've taken in the Peruvian Amazon and the Andes, I learned from taxonomic experts that, for instance, it was the first time that anybody ever took a picture of a given genus or a given species. So it's really exciting. Once you start getting these online, they build up to a nice size information system that you can actually start making sense of. How do we get the data online? Well, simple. We wrote these little macro data collection and upload forms. And so basically, I don't have time to show you this right now tonight, but this file, you save it, and you go to the Atrium. Oops, sorry. You go into the admin section, and it allows you to basically, just like you're uploading an image to Facebook, and it sucks in all the data.